Okay. Uh, so last Wednesday, it's been a while. Took a quiz, did 3, 4, 3, 5. Okay. This next Wednesday, you'll have another quiz, 3, 5, 3, 6. 3, 4, 3, 5, 3, 6. 3, 4, and 3, 5 was one. The next Wednesday, we'll take another quiz. So stay on top of it. Then Friday, we got the test. Okay. I think no, the next. This Friday's, I don't know if this Friday's A or B. This Friday's A, I guess. Remember, the second hour switched this week. This Friday must be B. Flex is normally on B. That's right. Okay, that's what got me jacked up. Okay, so your second period on Friday is Thursday. Don't forget that. I did not post answers to the worksheet. I apologize for that. Anything that you guys, I know it's been a while. Been a while. So we had sinusoidal functions. They call them sinusoidal, whether it be sine or cosine. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today in 3.6. But they call them sinusoidal, whether it be sine or cosine. Okay, sinusoidal is anything that has a period or that it repeats. Okay, so that's just what they call them, is sinusoidal. Just don't be confused if it says sinusoidal and you see something about cosine. But we talked about basically the period, frequency, amplitude, midline. Okay. Let's see, that was worksheet A. Oh, and then we had a free response part of it, right? And I mean, you'll see this. I mean, you're going to see it on the AP exam. You're going to see it on this exam. You'll see it on next exam. You'll see it on a quiz. They'll do the F, G, J, K, P, and I don't know why they use those letters, but that's what they use. So you got to understand that stuff, and you'll see it today for today's homework too, somewhat. With increasing, concave, down, negative. All that stuff from chapter 1 or unit 1, right? Still comes into play. You got to know if we're decreasing or increasing. You got to know if it's concave up, concave down. If it's decreasing at a decreasing rate, increasing at an increasing rate, or positive or negative. Okay, all that stuff you still got to know from chapter 1 or unit 1. Anything of those that were cumbersome to you or you thought maybe I'm not too sure, again, I apologize for not posting the answers. That's normally not my intentions, but I already got 3 6s posted. Anything? Some of you guys, I think I got some mess up on some uploads or mess up on the assignments. So I'll get that fixed today. I got some of them out of 2 and some of them are 3 3s, and it looks like I graded 3 3s, but I didn't put them in the grade. I'll get it fixed today. You guys should know what you turned in and what you haven't turned in. So screenshot of the unit circle. We got 3 1, 3 2, 3 3, 3 4, 3 5. Those are things that should have been turned in. 3 2 we split up into 2 days, if you guys remember that. We got a 3 2A and a 3 2B. I just put 1 grade in the grade book. Okay, everybody good, kind of? The quiz I've already graded and put in. I would have thought y'all did a little bit better on the quiz. I don't know if y'all were expecting something different or. So with that, guys, don't forget, you can retake quizzes, but you're running out of days to retake stuff. And we got another quiz on Wednesday and another quiz on the next Wednesday. And that one you probably won't be able to retake because the test is Friday. So just kind of remember that kind of stuff, right? With a bunch of quizzes coming up and y'all guys are busy during flexes, I know. Okay, so do well on the first one. You don't have to worry about it. Anything that we can clear up before we get going on 3.6. You got to understand the graphs of 3.5 and 3 or 3.4 and 3.5 sinusoidal function graphs. Period, frequency, midline, amplitude. Period's how long it takes to get through one cycle. Frequency is the reciprocal of that. Midline is halfway between the top and the bottom. And the amplitude is from the midline to the top or the midline to the bottom. Amplitude is always positive. It's a distance. So don't ever tell me the amplitude is negative. It will be wrong. Yay? Good? Anything else? Y'all okay? Caught up? Unit circle stuff, where the positions are. That was kind of, anyway. Quiz. I guess y'all were expecting different stuff on the quiz, or I don't know. The smallest value for the period or of the period. And some of you guys put the smallest value of the function. What? It was the smallest value of the period. How long does it take to get through one cycle? They won't ask what is the period because the period could be 4 or 8 or 12. So they want the 4. They want the smallest value of the period. Or it could be 2 or 4 or 6 or because it repeats. So when does it repeat? Does it repeat every 4 or does it repeat every 8? And if it repeats 4, then it repeats 8. So they want the smallest value always. That way everybody has the same answer for 1. Okay, cool. If you need to look at those some point, you can. Those are yours. I won't hand them back, but if you need to swing by and look at them or something. Yay? 3.6 notes. Big one. You got to know 3.5 and 3.4, 3.5 in order to do 3.6. If you don't know 3.4 and 3.5, we're in trouble for 3.6. Okay? If you know 3.6, then you're good with 3.4 and 3.5. So it's kind of a repeat type thing. 3.4, 3.5 was introducing you to 3.6. 3.6. Sinusoidal, again, don't be stuck and we're only talking about sine. We could be talking about cosine, okay? Function, and then we're going to transform these things. We're going to move them left, we're going to move them right, we're going to move them up, we're going to move them down, we're going to dilate them, dilate them, dilate them, dilate them. We're lucky because we only talk about dilate. To me, dilation means shrinking, but we don't have to talk about shrink or compress or grow or expand, or it's just dilate. Dilate. Previously in 3.4, 3.5, we learned how to identify the midline, the amplitude, and the period. You gotta know midline, amplitude, and period. That, again, it's not that tough, I hope, but those are just things we gotta understand. Now we're gonna learn how those properties affect the equations of sinusoidal functions. To do this, let's consider how the midline, the amplitude, and the period affect the graphs of sinusoidal functions through the lens of transformations. And this is stuff that you guys have learned in Chapter 1 or Unit 1. This is stuff you guys learned in Algebra 2. I hope you guys understand about how things move up and move down and move left and move right and expand and expand and expand and expand or compress. And those are, and flip. Flipping them on the Y is really different for these because they're symmetrical, some of them. Anyway, midline, you know, is a vertical translation. So the midline is typically at 0. The midline is typically at 0. If the midline's moved up, then that's a vertical translation. Translation is what they call it. I'm just going to say transformation. Or it might be moved down. So the midline moves these sinusoidal functions up or down. The midline. The amplitude is a vertical dilation. So if it's the midline and this is the amplitude, If it's higher than that, then it's a vertical dilation. If it's lower than that, it's a vertical dilation. So the amplitude is a vertical, which makes sense because that's the distance from the midline to the max, or to midline to the max. And then the period is a horizontal dilation. Normally it's from 0 to 2 pi. If it goes from 0 to pi, then that's a horizontal transformation. Dilation is the word. Gosh dang it. Dilation. Horizontal dilation. So we have vertical translation, they call it translation. Vertical translation, vertical dilation, horizontal dilation, and the only other thing we have is a horizontal translation. And that's halfway through the notes. Everybody okay with those 4 things? We didn't even talk about flipping them. Okay. So this starts to look pretty. You got f of theta. Again, you can use x if you want to, but they typically use theta. And it's equal to, and then they're going to use a. Of course, a is going to be a number. And it's going to be sine or cosine. So I'm just going to put trig. Okay, it's going to be sine or cosine. It's not going to be secant. It's not going to be cosecant. It's not going to be tangent. It's not going to be cotangent. Just sine or cosine. Trig. And then we have a b. And then here's the theta. Okay? And they're going to put that in parentheses. That way you know you're taking the sine or the cosine of that entire thing. And then plus d. Okay? And so that's like the parent, if you will. Guys, kind of the parent. And so that's why they have 2 of these things right here. F theta a sine b theta. And then they did k theta. I don't know why. A cosine b theta d. So both of these have an A, they have a B, and they have a D. They have a C too, but that's halfway through the lesson. Vertical dilation by a factor of A. A is the amplitude. A is the amplitude. You need to understand it's a vertical dilation, but A is the amplitude. A represents the amplitude. A vertical translation of D, that represents the midline. D is the midline. You're either moving midline up or you're moving the midline down. And then the horizontal dilation. You guys, hopefully you think back to that unit 1 and then when we talked about that. Anything with the horizontal is opposite of what you think. If it's a positive C, it moves it to the left. If it's a negative C, it moves it to the right. And so they're going to say it's 1 over B. And they're going to do the absolute value of that. That's misleading. But I don't worry about the absolute value, but it's 1 over B. And B, here's the normal period. 2 pi is what it normally is. There's the B. You got to understand that. You got to understand that 2 pi is the normal period. You're going to divide that by B. This is the value that goes with theta. It will make more sense as we go through this. But that B is the same. Those are the same B's. Okay? Good enough with those variables. A, B, D. C comes halfway through. A, B, and D. I'm going to jump right into the examples. If you understand A, B, and D, then you can do these examples. They tell me that the amplitude, they tell me the period, and they tell me the midline. That's different because normally they don't tell you any of those things, and they normally just give you the graph. Is this the same one you guys have? Is the same notes? We're good? Y'all remember, I don't look at you guys' notes. I just pull up what I think are the notes. So the midline is at 3. Uh-oh, what are you doing? What was all that? There's the midline at 3, okay? Midline's at 3. The amplitude is 6. Again, normally they won't tell you this. You'll have to dissect it from the graph. but this is 3 and this is 9. And so that distance right there is 6. If you wanted to, you could go from here and say 6. Okay? Rian, you good back there? Okay. Get worried sometimes. So the amplitude is 6, and then the period. So if this is where I'm starting, and you don't have to start there, right? Again, that's what makes these a little crazy, is wherever you start them from. But if I start it from right there, which typically that's where we'd like to start at 0. How long does it take to get through one cycle? And you can see it's pi. And if you want to go from here to here, that distance is pi. If you want to go from here to here, that distance is pi. It doesn't matter where you go from a starting point to an ending point, that distance is pi. And so again, that's what they're telling you. The graph of the sinusoidal function is shown above, along with information about the amplitude, the midline, and the period. The function h can be written as this. Now, be aware of this. Sometimes they will stick a cosine in there. So sometimes they'll stick a cosine in there. Sometimes they'll stick a sine in there. And sometimes they won't stick anything in there, and they'll just ask you to write it. Okay? What you need to understand is both of these, this could be a sine or a cosine. It could be a sine or a cosine. If you want to start at the midline, sine. If you start at the midline, it's sine, because sine starts at 0. If you want to start at the max or the min, cosine. Okay with that? If that's where you want to start. So if you start at the midline, make it a sinusoidal curve. If you're going to start at the max or the min, make it a cosine. If they tell you that it's sinusoidal, that means you're going to start at the midline. If they tell you it's going to be cosine, you're going to start at either the max or the min. And that just comes back with the duck being on the water. At 0, we're 0. At 0, we're 0. Whereas cosine is 1. Okay? All right. Find the values of A, B, and C. Oh, I'm sorry, A, B, and D. A, B, and D. So, A equals the amplitude. It's always positive. Always positive. Please don't put a negative. And that was nice because we didn't really have to know anything about that. They told us it was 6. B, that's the harder one. I don't say it's the harder one, it's the most missed one. How about that? It's the most missed. And that is the period, okay? Now, this is where we're going to mess up because the period, they told me, is pi. Well, B's not pi. B is not pi. Normally, the period is 2 pi. A normal period is 2 pi. This period is pi. So this graph is going twice as fast. Yeah? Twice as fast. Normally I get to pi, 2 pi is 1 period. But when I get to 2 pi on this graph, I've already done 2 cycles. I've done 2 cycles. 1, 2. So because it's going twice as fast, that period changes. And so what you should do if you don't want to miss it is do that period is equal to 2 pi over b. And we know that the period is pi. And so if this is pi, now let me change this to black or red or something else. We know that this is pi, and now you got to solve that for b. And quick algebra is you multiply both sides by b and you divide both sides by p, or you just switch those two. Or I don't use their equation. I use b is equal to 2 pi over what the period is. All I did was switch these 2 variables. Multiply both sides by b, divide both sides by p. So I use this, that's a pi function as opposed to his. B is 2. I don't care how you get it. B is 2 because it goes twice as fast. I don't care how you get that 2. It's not pi. It's not 2 pi. It's 2. It's going twice as fast. And then D is simply how far it's moved up or how far it's moved down. And this particular one, it's moved up 3. D could be negative. D could be negative. A cannot be, I don't want to say that. The amplitude cannot be negative. A could be negative. The amplitude is not. That's what I need to say. Let's see if that comes up. I don't know when that might come up. Any questions about that? Hopefully that was pretty easy for you. Yes? So you're saying D is the midline? D is the midline. D is the midline. A is the amplitude. I don't know if they're going to put a little. A could be negative. A could be negative. The amplitude cannot be negative. Wait a minute, I thought you said A was the amplitude. If the graph's going correctly, if the graph starts at the midline and goes up, we're good. If the graph starts at the midline and starts going down, that's like the wrong way. If it starts high, you're okay. If it starts low, that's not where it normally starts. Let's see. I don't know if they'll do that or not yet. Okay. Next one. This is more what you're going to see here. This is normally what you're going to see here. Example numero 2. The figure shows a graph of a trigonomic function. Write the expression for f of theta. Okay? Is it good with y'all's notes? Everybody's good? We're still matching. Okay. So I know I need f of theta. Okay. So use f of theta because that's what they told me to do. And luckily, that's the graph of f. If that was the graph of k, we'd be in big doo-doo. Okay? Now, you got to realize one of two things. Are we starting at the max or are we starting at the midline? And you can start either way. There's not a wrong answer for this, although we haven't talked about shifting things left or right. So we probably are going to start at the midline. If you start at the midline, you're going to use sine. If you wanted to start up here, which you really can't yet, you can halfway through today's lesson, then it would be you would have cosine. If you want to start here, you're going to use sine. If you want to start up here, I would use cosine. Okay? But because this is 0 and this is the midline, I would love to use sine because it's easier to write that way. It's easier. You want to look for the 0 point. Sometimes 0 is not the midline or the max. Sometimes 0 is like got things jacked up. So I'm going to use sine. I'm going to use sine. And because I start at the midline and go up, that's good. That means I'm not flipped over anything. I'm not doing anything opposite of what I should be doing. So we're going to have a positive a value. And let's see, that's 3, and this is 6. And so from 3 to 6 is 3. That's the amplitude. And again, the reason why it's not negative is because I'm going up. If I started going down, then that would be negative 3. But because I'm starting here and going up like I'm supposed to, it's kind of like the old parent function of sine. If you know, good gosh, what's going on here? My computer's not going real fast today. That one's what sine looks like. And that looks almost like this one, except we're shifted up and we're expanded and whatever. Like the old parent function, right? That's the parent of cosine. That's the parent of cosine. And those, you just got to have those ingrained in your head, just like you got quadratic in your head, just like you got a cubic in your head, just like you got linear in your head, the parent. 3, sine. I'm going twice as fast again. I'm going twice as fast again. So if I'm going twice as fast, the normal period is 2 pi. This period is pi. That value, or that b value that I'm looking for, is 2. That b value I'm looking for is 2. And then we got the variable, theta. Don't forget theta. And then I got to look to see if this thing's moved up or if it's moved down. And it is moved up 3 units. There's not a lot of work to be shown on this. There's not a lot of work to be shown on this. That kind of makes it more difficult, I think, because it's pretty much right or wrong. If you can't reduce that, I guess might be the only work you can show. And even then, a lot of us can do that in our head. That's a point, that's a point, that's a point, and that's a point. 4 points. If you don't put f of theta equals, you missed a point. Good enough? Hopefully that's an easy question. Example number 3. Oh, this one's multiple choice. That helps. That helps. Now, I do notice this, guys, and y'all remember again your homework, please. Don't necessarily look for which one's right, but know why the other ones are wrong. That helps you study. That helps you understand it. If I started right here, I would use cosine. If I wanted to start right there, no, I'm sorry, that would still be sine. I'm sorry, that'd be sine because that's the midline. If you start at the midline, it's sine, but notice that this one starts down. Okay, so if I started right here and this goes down, that's an instance when A would be negative. If I started right there. How do you know where to start? You don't know where to start. We'd like to start at 0. We'd like to start at 0. None of this has anything to do with this question. The figure shows a graph of a sinusoidal function g. What are the values of the period and the amplitude? So I really don't care about what the function is. I don't care about what the a value is. They want the period and the amplitude. And the amplitude always goes from the midline to the max. -1 to 1, the amplitude is 2. The amplitude is 2. The period is how long it takes to get through one cycle. And if you want to go from here to here, that's one cycle. If you want to go from here to here, that's one cycle. If you want to go from here to here, that's one cycle. It doesn't matter where you go. Doesn't matter. If I want to go from here to here, that's nice because I don't have to do any subtraction, addition, whatever. That period is pi. And so now I'm looking, the period is pi and the amplitude is 2, that's A. The period is pi and the amplitude is 4. No, that's not the amplitude, that's the distance from the minimum to the maximum. The period is 2 pi. No, when I go from 0, if I go from negative pi to pi, I've done 2 cycles. So it's not 2 pi. And the amplitude is 2 and the amplitude is 4. Okay? Beautiful. Again, notice this graph though. If I start right here, I would use sine, but A, not the amplitude, A would be negative. A would be negative because I'm going down instead of up. If you didn't want to do that and you wanted to start here, that's good. Then A would not be negative. But what makes these tough is there's 29 of you cats in here and you can write this 29 different ways. Depends on if you want to start with sine or you want to start with cosine. If you want to do a negative or if you want to do a positive. And then how much you want to shift. Y'all kind of follow along? Luckily, they didn't ask any of that on that one. That was an easy question. Ooh, yucky. Now I got cosine. Ooh. The trigonomic function has a maximum at 0, 6. Well, that's nice. I'm going to draw it. I think it will help you to draw that. 0, 6. After this maximum, the next minimum occurs at pi over 2 negative 4. What's up?
So if you got an extra worksheet.
Jace? That's a cram. Attaboy. Okay, so that's the minimum. Here's the maximum. They like for this to be a cosine. That's good. That helps me. Because if that's cosine, then I want to start at the max. I would love to start at the max for cosine. If that was the midline, it was cosine. I got to do something else to it. But if that's the max, and they want me to use cosine, that's great. That's great. That means that this graph does that. That's what that graph does. And this is from this is 0, 6, and this is pi over 2 negative 4. So my guess over here, if that's halfway, then this must be pi, and we're back at 6. That must be pi 6. And therefore, the period is twice as fast, so the period is 2. It's looking like, I'm sorry, the B value is 2. It's not pi. It's for sure not pi. Because it's 2 pi over what the period is, and this one's pi. And that gives me the B value. You're going to need to know that because sometimes it's going to be a constant, and it will be a pi. Okay, so we're not this one, and we're not this one. They all have a 1. That's nice. That must mean the midline's at 1. And if the midline's at 1, to get from 1 to 6, that has to be a 5. To get from 1 to negative 4, that's also 5. So we're looking at this one, not this one. This is the distance from the max to the min, which is twice the amplitude. Everybody okay? Beautiful. Now we got the function, we got to match the graph. So we have sine. So we're going to start at the midline. All 4 of those start at the midline. All 4 of those start at the midline, so that we can't narrow it down that way. 3 is the amplitude. That's the distance from the max, from the midline up. This is 1, and that's 3. That's only 2. That cannot be this graph because this amplitude is only 2. This is, let's see, this midline is 0. No, what's that? Is that midline? No, this midline is negative 1. Negative 1 to 2, that distance is 3. So we could be this one. This is from negative 1 to 2. That's 3. Could be that one. And this is from negative 1 to 2, and that's 3. So the amplitude only marked off A. The amplitude marked off A. I got 2x, and I got a negative 1. And I'm going to look at the negative 1 next, because all that does is shift things down. This one was already marked off, but it's a good thing because that's a positive 1. This is a negative 1, that's a negative 1, and that's a negative 1. So I can't mark any of these off with this negative 1. And so now we got to look at the period. And that 2x tells me what? It goes twice as fast. So when I start at 0, when I get to pi, I better be a repeat. That's looking good. 0, that's 2 pi. That's the normal one. That's the normal one. That's where b would be 1. And this one starts at 0, and that's pi over 2. And that means it's going half as fast. And this one doesn't go half as fast, it goes twice as fast. This b value would be 1. This b value will be 1/2. Again, I think it's important to know why it's wrong. Test, you don't care about that, right? Test, you don't care. But while you're trying to learn it, it is. Okay, now let's talk about the phase shift. This is the part where students start having big issues. Okay? Not 325 students. That's you guys. This is room 325. A horizontal translation of a sinusoidal function is called a phase shift. They're going to call it a phase shift. Bless. We're going to shift the phase. The graph of g is equal to sine plus c. Okay, so we're with the x, right? That value is with the x. If it's with the x, that does horizontal stuff. If it's with the x, it does horizontal stuff. Then it shifts it by negative c, opposite of what you think. Anything with the x is opposite of what you think. So if it's a plus c, it's moving it to the left. If it's a minus c, it's moving it to the right. And what's bad about these is you can move these left or right because why? They repeat. They repeat. So it kind of depends on where you start. Okay. And that's why this is multiple choice, because this is infinite solutions on the equation of this. This is infinite solutions on the equation of this. It could be cosine, it could be sine. We don't know. It could be either one. If you start right here at 0, I'm going to use cosine. I'm going to use cosine, except it's going to be a negative a value, because instead of going down, cosine normally starts up here and goes down. If you start at the bottom, that's a negative cosine. So it could be this one. It could be b, but don't start right there, because if you start right there. So if I start right here, I could be this one, but then this one also says I'm shifted down 1 unit, and that would be the midline at -1. Well, all of these have a -1, so we are definitely shifted down 1 unit. So this is my midline, and it might help you to draw that. I don't know if it does or not. The amplitude is from the midline to the max, which is 3. That's a 3, that's a 3, that's a 3, and that's a 3. That doesn't help me any. That doesn't help me any. So I've looked at the 3s, I've looked at the -1s. The only really thing we have left is the phase shift. And so what I'm going to do now is use the multiple choices and not use the graph. This phase shift is not shifted. It is not shifted at all. So that one's not going, that one cannot be this graph, because if I'm not shifted at all, if this was a -3, this would be the right answer. If this was a -3, this would be the right answer. Let me rephrase that. This would be a right answer, because I'm starting right here, and instead of going down like I'm supposed to, I'm going up. So if that was a -3, I'm flip-flopped. I'm supposed to be up here, I'm down here and going up. So I'm flipped over the midline. So if that was negative, that would be the right answer. This one is negative, but now this one is shifted to the right pi units. So what that means is at pi is where I'm going to start this thing. So let me do some erasing off this because I got a lot of stuff happening up here. It's hard to see. All right, so this negative pi means I'm starting at pi, which is here. And that's beautiful because that's a max. In cosine, we start at maxes. However, that has a negative. And if that's a negative, that means we're not starting at the max, we're starting at the min. Opposite of what, starting the opposite spot. So if this was positive, this would be the right answer. If that was positive, this would be the right answer. But it's not. So now we're down to signs. And this one says I'm shifted to the left, pi over 2. Left, pi over 2. That means at pi over 2, I better be at the midline. Left pi over 2. That means over here, I better be at the midline. Left pi over 2. Beautiful. This looks like sine if I start right here, except what? Instead of going up, I'm going down. And that's a positive. If this was a -3, that would be the right answer. If that was a -3, it would be the right answer because it says I'm basically starting at negative pi over 2. And negative pi over 2 is right here. This is positive pi over 2, so this is negative pi over 2. And if it continues, that's what it does. This is not sine. Sine starts up. That's what sine would do. So that's not correct. It better be D. D says -3 pi over 2. I like it when it does a negative because I can see that. So let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of all this. -3 pi over 2. Whew. That's where I'm wanting to start. But it's headed down instead of up. And so because it's headed down, it better be a negative. And it is a negative. So it's looking like this is the correct one. Again, when you're doing your homework, guys, don't necessarily look for which one's right, but look and see why the other ones are wrong. If you can get this, this is not easy. Hopefully it is for you guys. If it is, then we're good to go. It's just there's so many ways to write these equations. You got to basically look to see which one of these works. If this one had a negative, this one would have worked. If this one would have had a positive, it would have worked. If that one had a negative, it would have worked. And the last one finally did work. Got another one. The figure shows the graph of a trigonomic function h. Which of the following could be an expression for h? Okay. 2, 2, 2, 2. The amplitude better be 2. The amplitude better be 2. And I better not be flipped on any of these. Like sine, I'm not starting going down. I got to start going up because it's not a negative. Sine, I'm not starting, I got to go up. Cosine, I got to start at the max. Cosine, I got to start at the max. If these were negatives, I'd have to start at the min. If these were negatives, I'd have to start at the min. If these were negatives, I'd have to start at the midline and go down instead of up. But none of them are negative, so I got to do what I think it's supposed to do, sine or cosine, okay? It's got a 2, here's a 2, here's a 2, and here's a 2. So I hope my period is pi. I hope my period is pi. This is one where you might say, I guess, this is one you might use his formula, right? period is equal to 2 pi over b. That's his formula. So if b is 2, then the period is pi. So by the time I get through done with this, I better be at pi, and every one of these is that. So that doesn't change anything. Positive 1, positive 1, positive 1, positive 1. So they're all positive 1, so this whole thing shifted up 1. So really all I got to do is figure out how far left or right this thing's moved. This has moved right, this has moved right, this has moved right, and this has moved right. So I just got to figure out how far right we are. I can't start there because that's cosine. I can't start there. That would be cosine, and that would be a negative cosine. That would be a negative cosine because I'm going up instead of going down. I could start right there. I could start right there, and that could be sine. And if that's pi over 2, that would have to be pi over 4. Do I have a sine with a pi over 4? I do. I do. I have a sine with a pi over 4. Again, I like to look at the other ones to make myself feel better. This one's a cosine with a pi over 4, and we don't start at pi over 4. At pi over 4, that's not a max or a min. So at pi over 4, I cannot be cosine. Pi over 4, I have to be a sine. I have to be a sine. So this one doesn't work because this should be a sine. Pi, if I wanted to start at pi, well, that's a min. At pi is a min. And so at pi, I'm at a min. I could be cosine. I could be cosine. Because I'm at a min, though, I have to be a negative. Good thing your phone didn't go off now. Nothing. I was telling them a story of how you were in here. I bore him. I bore them.
Oh, Lily's phone?
Yeah, that's how I tell them the story.
Hey, guys.
Y'all know Dr. Watson? That's a principle.
Come on.
That means you got to act right.
No, you act right because you're a good person.
No, you act right so you make me look better. I keep one for my students. Forgot where I was at. Oh, it's okay. If that was pi, or if we were starting at pi, that's a min. That's okay. We could use cosine, but that would have to be a negative, right? Because cosine we start at a max or a min. But if we start at a min, it better be negative. And then the last one, or I'm sorry, we said C was the correct answer, right? And D does pi. Yes, no, maybe. Y'all feeling yes, no, good? Were we done? No? We have another one. Okay, now you guys have to tell me something. Oh, here, look. F, G, J, K, P. Boy, first time you guys have ever seen that, right? Rihanna, the first time you ever seen that? No! Your answer is no. You've seen it 100 times. Ian, this is the first time you've seen this? Guess what? Next Friday, and we'll see it again. The graph of H and its dashed midline for 2 cycles is shown. 5 points, F, G, J, K, P, are labeled on the graph. No scale is indicated. The coordinates of the 5 points, F, G, J, K, and P, are this, 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 and this. So let's talk about that before we go much further, because I don't think they have to give me J, K, and P. I don't think they have to give me that because they told me Well, they didn't tell me as a sinusoidal function. F is 216. G is 511. They shouldn't give me rest of these points. They shouldn't. Because if you know that we're going in common intervals, if this is 216 and this is 511, this has to be Penelope. I mean, we already know what it is, but what does it have to be? 8, 6. Add 3, add 3, add 3, add 3. Subtract 5, subtract 5. Add 5, add 5. Now, they tell you all these things just to make sure. But you guys are smart. You guys should know that. Talk to me.
Will we just get 2 points or just one like this really all?
So what was that one we did? Was it that was the clock, right? Where basically you had to come up with all those points. Fair enough, right? Y'all kind of, we've had what was the other one? A propeller, toy car going around in a circle, right? So like what Manuel's asking, are they going to give me all those? I don't know. I think they gave me all these just to make sure you know it's sinusoidal. If they don't really give you all those, officially you don't know that it's equidistance. Officially. Y'all kind of follow what I'm saying on that? Am I hurting you, helping you, Natalie? Yeah? Boring, you got you? I don't ask you, okay. Okay, the function can be written in the form of, so they want me to use sine. They want me to use sine. So that means I got to start at a midline. I got to start at the midline. I would like to start at the midline and go up. Don't have to, but I would like to start at the midline, go up, because you're less likely to make a mistake. You got B, you got T, they got C, they got D. They don't care about T. Of course, T is the variable. They just want to know what A, B, C, and D are. They want to know what A, B, C, and D are. Dax, what's A? Don't give me the value. Tell me what the word is for A. How about that? Don't say it like a question. Thank you. Oh, good night. Everybody okay with that? I mean, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. It's A, amplitude. That's kind of nice. So I need A. I don't care if it's a sine or a cosine. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. So you're finding this midline, which is that dashed line, and the dashed line to the max. Well, the dashed line's at 5, and the max is at. I'm sorry. The dashed line is 11. The max is 16. So A is 5. And I don't know if you need any work for that or not. Maybe, I don't know. That doesn't look like an A now. Now it's starting to look like a D. There we go. A, B, period. Oh, shucks, I was supposed to ask you guys that. Emma, what's B? Oh, good. Don't say it like a question. That wasn't a question. Of course, I gave you the answer. So how long does it take to get through one cycle? This one's different because this one doesn't involve a pi. So it doesn't matter if you want to go from here to here or here to here or here to here or here to here. Doesn't matter. I would like to go from here to here because those are points that I know. And this was 216. What was P? P is 1416. So to get from 2 to 14, the period is 7. Let's turn this to blue or black. Let's do blue. Let's do black because I'm colorblind. The period is equal to 2 pi over b. Yep. What's that? He does really good in like the choir thing, and so now he thinks he's just all that good in this class too. Because he's going to confuse some of these guys. Because I didn't ask him to answer the question. I didn't ask the question. He was volunteering information. Wait till I ask the question. We got two different formulas we can use, right? Either one? Good. He already answered all the questions. Jonah, what is the value of B? I have two Jonahs, and they're both in this direction. I was asking Vorgel. What is it, Klumpney? 6 over pi. 6 over pi. The period is what? Here we are. The period is 7. The period is 7. I'm sorry, it's not 7 times. Period is 12 to get from 2 to 14. And so if the period is 12, switch the B and the 12. Yay? Pi over 6. Pi over 6. Is that what you said?
No, it's not.
Oh! Okay. Y'all good? Yeah. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Use the formula. This is the only time I'm going to use a formula instead of using common sense. Common sense, amplitude. Common sense, phase shift. Common sense, horizontal shift. I think. This, I'm going to use a formula every time. Use a formula every time. Mr. Sharp, you got a question or are you stretching? Stretching. And I don't care if you use this one or you use B is equal to 2 pi over P, right? You guys should be able to interchange those very easily. Interchange those very easily. So it depends on if you're looking for B or if you're looking for the period. This time I'm looking for B, so I probably would use this one. Yes, sir.
Other times where we go into the period, but we need to calculate with B.
Yes. If you have the equation. Bless you. Clumpney, you happy now?
Yeah. I didn't account that you switched it.
Oh, I am. Vargo, you got it? What did we say? A, B, C. D. Well, darn it. It's all right. I think D is the easy one. Go ahead, Walter. You're shaking your head. B is the midline. Nathan, what's the midline? What is? I didn't say where is. No. That's a point. I might get you on that. If I ask you what the midline is and you tell me it's 11, I'm probably going to ding you, right? Grace? Oh, don't say it like a question. Yeah, if I ask you for the midline, you got to give it to me as equation. You got to give it to me as equation. I would have accepted 5 for this one. Oops. So that value is D. Students do really well with those points. Yeah.
How would it be y because d is plus d? So you wouldn't do plus 1 equals 11.
What?
You ask for the, well, you ask for d or the midline. On the question,
Midline is y equals 5. D is 5. That's what I said. Shh. Predict what I'm going to write. Predict what I'm going to erase. It's my first mistake this year. It's been a while since I've made one. 11. Put 11. You good? Shift. Normally this thing's supposed to start at 0. Normally these things start at 0. They always start at 0. We want them to start at 0 because then we have no shifting. Uh-oh. Dadgummit. This one does not start at 0. This one starts at, hold on, I'm using sign. So this one does not start at 2. You could start it at 5. You could start it at 5. If you started at 5, that's going to do what to A? Make it negative. If you started at 5, it's going to make A negative. Don't start it at 5. Start it at K. If you want to start it at K, you're okay. What was K's point? 11 plus 11 minus 11. Don't. Let me pick on somebody. Plus 11 or minus 11? Don't say it like a question. You said it like a question, first of all. But probably, oh, why is it minus 11? See, you thought it was positive 11. That's why it's minus 11. Because we're shifted opposite of what you think. Good? Happy, joy. I don't need to write this. Is that the last thing? Good? Okay, so what's your plan? You got homework today. Get your stuff uploaded. Some of you guys are falling behind on your uploads. Get your stuff uploaded. Get your stuff uploaded. Make sure, some of you guys still have not taken a screenshot of your unit circle. Get a screenshot of that unit circle, get that uploaded. 3.2, some of you guys uploaded 3.2b and the unit circle at the same time, that's fine. I didn't really look at 3.2b. I just put 3.2b with 3.2. If your grade does not, if your grade does not agree with what I have, let me know. Send me an email like, would you do this again, or I did this, or right? Most of the time you guys do a pretty good job of that, just making sure that you are. I get a notification if you upload it late. Y'all follow what I'm saying, right? If it was due this morning, like 3.4 or 3.5 was due this morning. If you didn't upload it this morning, you upload it later, I get an email on that automatically. So you don't have to attach anything like I did it. Because then I get 2. And I don't care, it's fine. It's just make sure you guys know I get a notification if you upload it late. If you upload it early, I don't get a notification. Okay. Yay. What happening on Wednesday? Quiz. And you guys that want to retake your last quiz, come by and check on it if you want to. I wish I had an electronic copy of that because I'd show you where some of the mistakes were on that. The period was definitely 4. how long does it take to get through one cycle? That bottom first page was the negatives got a bunch of you guys. Negatives and positives.